So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. Today is Wednesday, June the 30th, 2021, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And we'll give just a few minutes for Michael to get dialed in, and then I'll turn Stacey's number back on. And in the meantime, I invite everybody to go to the website, whyagain.org. There's all kinds of free tools, videos, audios, the book, all the worksheets. There's just lots and lots of information. Put the tools to work in your life. We're here 5 days a week if you need support. And then you also can drop an email to me at Jeanie, Jeanie, at whyagain.org. Or you can call us if you have our number. And we're always here to support you with your questions. So first I'm going to say welcome, Michael. And we've already got someone. Dr. Tim said that he had a question for you about the energy system and some of the things that he has felt energetically since having COVID. So that person is on hold whenever you're ready to take the first call.
Cool. Let's go right for it. Let's say hello.
All right. Stacey, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome. What's happening?
Good.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, I kind of popped in because I saw these Aramaic words. Cause, you know, I have a Syrian background, even though I don't speak Assyrian.
Right.
I know how to say hi like Shlama. But I've been having issue with like health ever since I got my second dose from the COVID shots. I've been having like I started off having like shingles, and I have other things like, you know, like skin infections that are having a hard time healing.
Ouch.
Like, yeah, like on my finger, like right now, it's like swelling up and some pain. I've been dealing with that for like probably like almost 2 weeks now. And then I've been dealing with like strep throat. You know, it's just like all in one go. It's just,
that's a lot.
It never happened. Yeah. So, I mean, the doctor told me I could have a weak immune system, but I don't know. It's not my real doctor. It's like a walking clinic, but I don't know.
Right. You know, it sounds to me like what you need to be doing is boosting your immunity, and so you might want to get your vitamin D3 levels checked, your vitamin C levels, and are you taking enough vitamin C? You know, things like selenium. Selenium is a viral birth control pill, basically, so it helps to keep any viruses from moving around.
Right.
You know, I just do the whole smattering: vitamin E, vitamin D3, C, zinc, and strengthen. You know, and it could be. And I'm no expert. I don't know much of anything on the whole, you know, altering the process with genetic alteration information. So I really don't have any suggestions from that point of view. From my training, it would simply be strengthen your immunity. And it could be that maybe with the shot, you know, one of the things that they sometimes do is they challenge the immunity, and it might just be a little bit of an overload for your system. And if so, your body will probably balance it out and move forward, but give it all the support you can. And of course, if there's any kind of hostility or fear happening in your world, that would be another thing that puts a load on the immune system. And that's where our work is, worksheets and still point breathing and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of stress too, a lot of financial distress. Of course, being out of work because of being sick also don't help.
That definitely adds to the stress. Have you gotten into using the reality management forgiveness processes yet?
No.
Okay. Well, that would be a tool we can offer you, and there's several ways you can access it. You can go to our website, whyagain.org, and in the upper left-hand corner of the home page, there's a link that says Start Here, you can go click that Start Here and just follow the links. It'll walk you through the whole forgiveness process. You can do the worksheet right there on the computer. You can also go to your app store on your phone and type in the words Heartland, H-A-R-T-L-A-N-D, Aramaic, A-R-A-M-A-I-C, forgiveness, and you'll have that app on your phone. You can start doing the forgiveness process. And the whole thesis behind the app is, the Greeks tell us, if I'm in pain, it's somebody else's fault, and so all I need to do is forgive them, and then everything will be okay. Well, the reverse is true. If I'm in pain, I've put an energy into my system that doesn't belong in my system, and my diseases and my disorders and my discomforts are my structure trying to respond to and take care of those things. And so one of the main ways that we create stress, a lot of people think, well, this is a stressful situation. Actually, there's no such thing as a stressful situation. What there are situations that challenge us physically, and then with our mind, we create stress. And the way we create stress is by setting a goal. You'll notice that you never get anything done unless you've got a goal to do it. And you're never upset with anybody unless they're violating a goal that you hold for them. And that's because when you set a goal in your mind, you create a stress. And the core of forgiveness from the first century Aramaic language is the canceling of goals that create stress, and therefore the alleviation of that stress energy, the removal of the stress energy. So forgiveness means remove the load on the system. And it sounds like your system, maybe with all the other stresses going on, then injecting that stressor into your system has just pushed you over the edge. And if you can take care of some of those other stresses, you might find your system is able to adapt to it, and you'll just rock on and be fine. That'd be my highest thought.
So is there like the words in Aramaic that's supposed to help with like these issues?
Well, in Aramaic, there's a concept, or there's a pair of words that describe what the Greeks mistranslated as the Holy Spirit, but that actually speaks of a literal elemental force in us that undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. It's called Ruka de Kudsha. The Greeks translated those words as the Holy Spirit, but it's nothing to do with a disembodied spirit being. It's actually, it has to do with the movement of breath within us. And you'll notice if you're in trauma or turmoil, one of the first things most people do is lock up and hold their breath. And when we lock up and hold the breath, we can't process those energies, and they tend to build up and, again, create more and more stress in the system. So when you call on or you activate that, in Aramaic, it would be defined as a feminine elemental force in us that undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. So when I am willing and I breathe instead of hold my breath in the presence of this stress, which just puts a lid on it and creates a bigger pressure cooker, when I let the lid off and breathe and invite that elemental force, and there's no real language there are no real words in the English language to describe this, except that there is this elemental force, and inviting, asking for support and assistance can. And when you're in a receptive place, you can get guidance. The real teacher, there is no teacher out in the outer world that's ever going to take you to the ultimate place you want to go with any teaching. The real teacher is within you already, and it's about uncovering that. And that in Aramaic would be represented by the words Ruka de Kudsha. But it's a far more, how should I say, detailed and complex concept than the English language even starts to imply.
Yeah. I definitely recognize the word ruha, like for spirit.
The breath.
Yeah.
In Aramaic, it's the breath. Yeah. It's the air, the wind. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you watch yourself when you're in trauma, one of the things you do, everybody does, is hold their breath. And they're cut off from ruka. They're cut off from that flow of energy.
Yeah.
So make sure you stay connected. That's one of the keys.
Okay. Well, I definitely will try to look through. So you said it's that website.
WhyAgain whyagain.org.
And then she said, like, the word for start, like start here.
Yeah, up in the upper left-hand corner of the home page, there's a Start Here button. It'll walk you right through. There'll be several links. It'll give you radio shows where we've walked somebody through the worksheet. And if you get into the worksheet process and you have questions, of course, that's one of the reasons we're here 5 days a week to support you in getting all your questions answered so you know how the tools work.
Okay.
And probably with your Assyrian background, this is in your genes already, so you'll probably have an easier time of accessing it, comprehending it, and really making it work than the average bear, because most people don't have
like
background.
The sound of the word and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a Syrian last name, like Yonan, like like Jonah.
Oh, right. Well, actually, that's one of the texts that we've worked with is the Yonan Codex. That was the first codex that we started working with, and then because it was an 8th century text and was not very complete, my former partner sent an expedition to the Middle East and found the Khaburis Codex, which is the one we're working with currently, and it's a 10th century copy of a 1st century text, and in the original Aramaic language, and that's what we've been working from to try to work to understand the 1st century meanings of what this man Yeshua was saying. And we're still building brain cells. We're still getting to the point where you go, oh, there's a whole other level. So
that's interesting. I do know my family, like my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they came from a small village known as Ardishay, and around the Lake Yermia, in like in Iran.
Right.
That's where our from.
I wonder if they're related, because in the early days of developing this, again, we were working with the Yonan Codex, and there was a man named Yonan who was one of the scholars, one of the translators of that.
No, maybe that's my great grandfather. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Well, this is going back now. This is back in the 70s, so we wouldn't have that many greats before it, but could be in your bloodline. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, I know my.
It's Malik. His first name was Malik. Malik was his first name.
Yeah, Malik.
Malik.
Okay. I've heard names like Malik Yonan. I don't know if that's the same one, but it's like I did my Ancestry.com. I have a cousin that has like a great grandfather or great grandfather has the name Malik Yonan.
Interesting.
Yeah. But my grandfather was born in the early 1900s, and then my great-grandparents are, like, from the 1800s. I'm kind of, like, born kind of late because I'm almost 32 now.
Right.
I guess I'm a little ancient from there, I guess.
Well, that's interesting. And, as you tap in, I suspect that this will probably, when you start looking at it, you start actually using the tool, it's probably going to be pretty natural to you then.
Yeah.
I would love to have the genes of in the bloodline of Malik Yonan. That would be a nice foundation for life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really, really appreciate this show. Like, I kind of feel like I sort of look at it as kind of like a recognition, because, I know Syrian people, they're like, oh, nobody doesn't really see us, but I feel like they're seeing us. So, I kind of appreciate, putting that out there for people to know the beautiful language.
Oh, there is so much wisdom there. I dance around with it, and sometimes I wish I could just go, just steep myself in it, like, a tea bag goes into a cup of tea, But I've never been to the Middle East. I've never, gotten into the culture, but it's powerful, what it shows us, what it tells us, and I've been working with it for 40 years, and I'm still just building the brain cells and getting new insights, new realizations of the practical application. there's just so many things you can say in Aramaic that, there's not even a concept of. There's some ideas that, for one single word, it takes a whole paragraph to say it in English. It's one word in Aramaic.
I know there's a lot of dialect within. I think there's like 60. I don't know if it's like over 60. I don't remember, but there's like a lot of dialect within Assyrian Aramaic language.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that here too. I can remember the first time I went to the farmers market in Atlanta, Georgia, and this little kid, about maybe 7 years of age, came over, and his dad was over there with his tomato cart. This little kid comes over, and he was speaking English, but I could hardly understand what he said. But it went something like, "You ain't your mater, mister?" Now he was trying to sell me tomatoes, but I was like, this is a dialect of English I really don't understand. But his parents understood him, his brothers and sisters understood him. I went over and ended up talking with them, but it was just like, they're definitely different accents and strains and meanings that develop, but the core spiritual meanings are just so profound.
Yeah.
And you've got, of course, you even go back 2,000 years ago, and Yeshua, speaking in the Aramaic, it was, you've got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. It's like, gee, I have eyes and ears. What do you mean? Okay. But having eyes, you do not see. If we don't have the brain, of course, he's not talking about physical eyes and ears. He's saying you've got to have the brain cells. If I've got a set of brain cells and I source some words, and you've got a different set of brain cells that you listen through, you won't have a clue of what I said, and vice versa, because it's not about physical eyes or physical ears. It's about having matching brain cells. Someone who sources a piece of information from one set of brain cells, if someone builds their perceptual construct of what that person said out of a different set of brain cells, they're going to hear something that doesn't even relate to what the first person said. And most people don't understand that concept. They think, I heard the same thing as Bill and Harry and Mary and Hortense, so, we all heard the same thing. Like, no, nobody heard. Listening, hearing doesn't happen in ears. Hearing happens in the brain. Just like seeing doesn't happen in eyes. It happens in the brain.
All right. Yeah. Where are you located?
We're in Bristol, Virginia. We've got a teaching center in the Ozarks in southern Missouri. But with COVID right now, we haven't opened it since the whole COVID thing started. And so we're, about 2 years ago, my wife's father became ill and couldn't live on his own, so we actually moved to Bristol, Virginia to take care of him. Before that, I'd been on the road pretty much continuously except for our summer seasons at Heartland. I've been on the road for almost 40 years. And so it's kind of nice. We actually live in one place. I put my head in the same pillow in the same bed every night, which for almost 2 years now. It's pretty cool living somewhere. But our teaching center's there, but we're in Bristol, Virginia.
It's funny because I live in Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh, interesting.
That's where they have the ESPN headquarters located.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I actually live right down the street from them, pretty much. But when you said Virginia, I'm like, no, I don't think there's usually. I know a lot of Assyrian. They tend to be like in like Detroit, Chicago, Turlock. I think it's another town in California, Turlock, California. Those areas.
Yeah, I know. A few years ago, I was traveling with a manuscript. We were working on getting high-resolution images of the manuscript made, and there was a whole community in Southern California. And we connected with them, and we did some work with them. It was a nice interaction.
Yeah, I have relatives around that area, too. Wow.
Cool. Well, as you tap into those worksheets, and again, you can put the app right on your phone so you can do the worksheets on your phone. And as questions develop, it's a really simple, easy process. However, our minds tend to make it complex because everything has to be wired in the opposite direction to what this culture teaches. We live in a culture that says, you did something terrible that caused me all this pain, but it's okay, I'll forgive you. Well, if that's what I believe, and that's what I've been steeped in, when I went to church as a kid and I listened to the preacher and I listened to the psychologist and I listened to the psychiatrist and I listened to my parents, if that's what I believe, I'm going to have to do some rewiring to get to the point where I go, oh, forgiving has nothing to do with letting them off the hook because this is inside of me. I need to develop the understanding of how to go inside myself and remove what's causing my pain, what's causing my stress, what's causing my diseases. And when I remove those things, then I'm alleviated of those things. But it's a pretty fair bit of rewiring.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely we'll check it out.
Cool. Well, any support we can be, we're here 5 days a week, 2 hours a day.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really
Delighted.
appreciate it.
Okay, and your name again is?
Stacil.
Spell it for me.
It's like it's Stacil.
Okay, got it.
It's like
Stacil.
It's like Stacy, but yep.
All right. Well, delight to meet you, Stacil. We'll look forward to talking to you again.
Okay.
All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great way to open the show.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We need to keep Stacil's phone number.
I've got it.
Cool. Nice. Well, do we have anything else happening there, Dee, or should we just
it's all
rock and roll?
It's quiet right now, so go for the reading.
All right. Well, let's look at the book then. So, why is this happening to me again? And I'm actually, this is the first time I've read my own book in many years, and I've actually been quite pleased as I'm going through it and in some cases did not know I had the level of comprehension that I had to write when I wrote back 25 years ago. Actually, it's a little more than 25 years. See, I think it was 1995 we published it initially. I guess 1997. I think this was the second edition I've got here. So first edition, I think, was 95. Long time ago. In any event, I've been quite pleased as we've been rereading it when I saw how consistent, although there've been, in terms of the work, doing the work, it's been, if I go back before writing the book, it was like I'd done no work by comparison. And yet I'm still very happy to be reading it and see how consistent it is with the new insights and new things that have come. And it really speaks about the power of that Aramaic thought structure. It's pretty profound. So we're talking to Richard on the topic of choosing teachers. If you have a copy of the book and you're reading it with us, we're on the top of page 85, partway down page 85. And if you don't have a copy of the book, it is out of print. You can order it from Amazon or from eBay. You'll find several used copies on either of those sites. We should probably be printing it. It's just, sometimes you get spinning so many plates and you can just do so much. And right now, between Dad and our new grandbaby and changing our whole way of doing this work around, what should I say? A reprint of this anytime soon. I've actually been working on doing some editing on it, and I am working on a new, what I'm seeing as a live book, so that I won't have to go reprint something. People will be able to buy a digital file. They'll have it on their phones or their computers or whatever, and it will be filled with links. And as things develop and change, it'll be something I'm visualizing will be stored on our website. So we'll be able to edit your book for you. So it'll be alive. It'll, as new insights come, as new upgrades come, as new tools come in, as new ways of putting things together come, it will be a live book, and it will include links to all sorts of things like, explanations by experts in many areas where we're synthesizing so many things, bringing experts in from all those areas and planning on links to many, 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 many different things to bring it all together and make sense, to give people a truly holistic course. And one of my doctorates is in holistic philosophy, And, how does it all work together? I mean, if you hear the science dialogue, it's interesting. If you hear the language dialogue, it's interesting. If you hear the spiritual dialogue, it's really interesting. If you hear the medical dialogue, it's interesting. If you hear the psychological dialogue, but when you put it all together, that's when you get the whole picture. That's when the brain, having developed the brain cells, can generate a more complete image of what we're really capable of. If we don't have the accurate brain cells, if we've been wired backward, and how can you tell if you've been wired backward? Wherever there is hostility or fear, your mind's been wired backward. And that has to be undone. It's not something you just say, oh, well, that's backward, but it's okay, it'll fix itself. No, it's going to take, it's like if you've got a virus in a computer, if you've got a program that's not properly written in the computer, you can't just say, oh, well, we'll let it go. Because everything that comes out of that program in the computer in the future is going to be impacted by that virus or that imperfection in the program. In exactly the same way, people are like, oh, well, we'll just let that take care of itself. Well, no, it doesn't take care of itself. It takes conscious, dedicated, directed work to change, especially the power person dynamics in one's bloodline. And that's one of the main things that we're going after with this work. And so the topic of this particular chapter is, how do you choose where you're going to learn it? Because there's so many people out there making all kinds of great promises. And what we're offering is that true health is impossible to achieve when there's discord within the system. That's just another way of saying, if there's a virus in the system, if there's a dysfunction in the programming of the computer, there's going to be a dysfunction in everything the computer outputs through that part of the programming. So when you realize that we're in this device that has been in process of being programmed for thousands of generations. In the ancient Aramaic, they talked about, one, the idea of sin, and that sin is an archery term that simply means off the mark. So if you were on the archery range and you fired at the target and you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell, sin, you're off the mark. And, when they said the wages of sin is death, they were telling you this is how the energy system works. If you put enough energies that are off the mark into this energy system, it's going to die. It's going to come apart. And then they gave us a further piece of information. This is all about building brain cells. They gave us a further piece of information that said the sins, now it isn't just the sins, but in this case that was their focus, the energies that are off the mark are passed into the 3 and 4 generations. Now, that's not a threat, that's just telling us how it works, that these energy patterns are passed from generation to generation. And many of them you're going to get to look at as you heal yourself. Something that happened maybe 2, 10, 20 generations ago. They speak of 3 to 4 generations. When you talk about that, did anybody ever tell you, did anybody in school ever tell you that in your body-mind unit, there was every thought, every feeling, every reality that had been generated by everybody in the previous 4 generations to you? That means of 31 lives. It's in you. Sometimes you don't feel like yourself. You wonder why. Because oftentimes those things are not of our true self. And then you stop and think about, well, if it's 4 generations back, where did the 4th generation back get their thoughts and feelings and reality structures? So obviously from the previous 4. Who got them from the previous 4? Who got them from the who got them? If you go back and do the math, in 30 generations, there are 1.6 billion people in your genes. You know how to tell the sex of a chromosome, don't you? Jeannie, do you know how to do that? You pull down its genes.
Don't go there.
Oh, well. So in any event, what we're saying is there are tools with which to access your genetic history and start to clean it up. And if there's stuff in there that isn't working, then it isn't going to work. Sooner or later, you've got to approach it. You've got to deal with it. And of course, your mind will, like the other generations have done before you, make up the realities that you're sure are true about somebody or something out there. And the only reason you're upset about it is because of what they did and what they said. And the only reason you need to kick them out of your lives is because what they did and what they said. And then you start looking at how it's like a power person dynamic to kick people out of your life or abuse them or speak gently to them, tell them how wrong they are and what they've done to you, or speak brutally to them and tell them how wrong they are and what they've done to you. And, all those games. Until this energy system is functioning out of conscious, active, present love, there's trouble. So what we're looking to do is to build the brain cells for a deep comprehension of health and healing. And one of the things, I can remember this very early in my medical career as a naturopath. I can remember that looking at the whole thing and realizing this component of what happens with the mind, and realizing that this whole study of disease is just a giant error. You don't need to know anything about what causes disease. Well, but Michael, we have schools for that. We have big ivory towers and universities where we cut bodies apart and we look for diseases and we study them and we study them and we study them. You know what? Go do some research. A statistically significant number of physicians and students in medical schools develop the diseases that they're studying. Got a thing called second-year syndrome. Second-year syndrome is where the kids that are studying these diseases are starting to come down with those diseases. Now, how is that possible? How does that work? Well, if you think you got a physical body, if they're the brain cells you look at life through, then you're looking at life through a total, complete, fraudulent lens, and nothing makes sense in the true nature of the world. But when you wake up to how it works, you realize you're living in an energy system, and there are these two qualities of energy. There's that which builds it up and that which tear it down. And if you've got tear down energy, and tear down energy is indicated by the activity of hostility or fear in you, then there's something for you to forgive, something for you to remove from your structure. And yes, you may find yourself years. Do you think that was really about a hot, sandy place where they could have woken up any morning that the sun came up and said, we're going to follow the sun, and we know it rises in the east and sets in the west. We're going to follow it for a few days. You can't stay in lost in a 35 square mile area for very long if you know anything about the sun. Expected to believe that this group of really bright people who knew astronomy very well got lost in 35 square miles for 40 years. When you realize that word desert is a code word for the unconscious, they weren't talking about physical bodies lost in a hot, sandy desert. They were talking about you and I stuck in a state of unconsciousness, not knowing what was up. Remember, they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. What is the temple? It's your body. What's the veil? It's the barrier between the conscious and the subconscious. Pardon me, that's actually one veil. Then the deeper veil is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious. That's got to be torn in two. It's not natural for us to have an unconscious mind. And the resistance to opening that because of what's stored there is monumental. So when I start to get safe enough and I have the tools, and what's the key way into the unconscious? Well, you'll notice when people are in trauma, the first thing they do is hold their breath, alter their breathing pattern. When they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain, that veil is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious. That veil is built with the breath. You notice when people are in trauma, they hold their breath. Rukutukucha, feminine elemental force in us in Aramaic that undoes the effects of earth, teaches us the truth. We need to let that move in us. When we stop holding our breath and we let that move, then energy moves throughout the system and we eradicate the unconscious condition. Now we're no longer lost in the desert. Remember what they said to get out of the desert, what had to happen? And the desert went from the desert to the promised land. What was the promised land? It's a land of conscious co-creation. The desert is the land of unconscious creation. What had to happen to get into the promised land? Go read it. The old generation had to die. It didn't mean everybody in old physical bodies had to physically die. The root of the word generation is genari. It means cause. All of the causes, all of the frequency patterns, all of the energetic dynamics that everybody in your bloodline had held their breath over are born and bred in you, and they need to be removed. The old generation, the old causes that mimic the generational pattern of unconscious creation have to be removed. Tool is forgiveness. The vehicle for moving the energy is the breath. You'll notice when you look at that wake-up sheet, over and over and over again, breathe, breathe, breathe. There's a reason for that, because it's the key way into opening the unconscious and cleaning out its content. So page 85, I'm not sure where that came from, but it sounds like fun. Page 85, choosing teachers. So what I've just finished saying to Richard is that without the comprehension of this energy system and healing, any system of so-called healing is bound to be a disease care system, which will consume enormous amounts of wealth. You'll notice if you look at the statistics in the United States, the number one cause of bankruptcy, people losing their homes in America, you know what it is? So-called healthcare debt. It's not a healthcare system, it's a disease care system. So Richard says back to me, that fits for me, but I'm not so sure. Still not sure, Richard looked at me quizzically as he spoke. Isn't it positive thinking to want to love everyone and let go of my need to condemn? It seems like you're telling me not to think that, but if I don't, I'm stuck with my negative thinking, being angry and blaming others. Well, Richard, let me go back to the prison analogy and clarify my point about condemnation. I don't have to condemn the prison in order to inform you. I'd used an example earlier. So if I know somebody who's in prison and I'm going to help them escape, fence that they're going to have to get over. If I let them know about that 20-foot fence before they leave the main compound area, they can get a ladder and get over the fence. So I've used that as an analogy for him earlier in the book. So with that prison analogy, I don't have to condemn the prison in order to inform you of its structure or say, here are the pitfalls. This is where the guards are, to just really tap in with your heart and really be holding those folks in a space of love. I was thinking this morning especially about the first responders and what they must have to process personally to attend something like that. And that kind of tragedy is pretty heavy duty. So everybody that's involved, family, friends, we send you our love. We hold the space. And our voice for let's get back on track with decent regulation of businesses that will do things like cut this kind of shortcut and leave people vulnerable. The whole regulation game. Oh, we're going to get rid of regulation. Yeah, well, it makes businesses a whole lot more profitable. Yep, a lot more money in it, but it costs people their lives. This is a product of misregulation. Be my offering. So we send love and we hold the space for correction that really puts us into a truly whole perspective on life and how this energy system works, and support of each person living truly as we are, and bring you forward higher and higher states of being. And so we're delighted that you're here with us. And Miss Jeannie, we're down to about 20 minutes. Do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, but there are a couple of hands, or not hands, but a couple phone numbers in the switchboard, and we have heard from them recently about them not being brave enough to speak up. So this is the time to speak up.
Somebody got a thought for us? How can we support you?
Press 1. Be brave.
Yeah, press 1. Let's have a conversation.
The thought that came to mind, there's in the Course in Miracles, there's a verse, and I can't quote it, but it talks about that, God has a plan for us, and if there is a plan that is made for us, would he not also make the way for us, and that we're not left alone, and that if we just step forward, that everything will be, the path will be clear, there'll not be a stone to trip on or nothing to bar our way. And so that came to my mind. So the only thing that's barring your way from pressing 1 is yourself. So press 1.
There you go. Once you have accepted his plan as the one function that you would fulfill, there will be nothing else that Ruka will not arrange for you. Without your effort, she will go before you, making straight your path and leaving in your way. No stones to trip on, no obstacles to bar your way. Nothing you need will be denied you. Not one seeming difficulty but will melt away before you reach it. You need take thought for nothing, careless of everything, except the one purpose that you would fulfill. And that fulfillment is guaranteed because it rests on you, a son or daughter of the Most High. I haven't thought of a passage in a while, sweetie. Thank you for bringing that up.
I love that passage. It's, I was
powerful.
not a follower of the Course in Miracles. I had never even heard of it until I met you. And that is absolutely one of my favorite sections because it's just, there's also an Irish prayer, something about may the sun always shine upon your face and the wind be at your back. And so it kind of reminds me of that. It's like all of the forces work for us and with us. And we have the ability as conscious creators to choose which direction that's going to go. The creator will allow us to choose to fall down if that's what we choose to do. And
right.
So we're in charge of our path. And I speak that to myself as much as anybody to remember that.
We hear you. I'm with you here. I hear you, sweetie. And it's it ties right in. The other day you dug out the quote that talks about how we're given a sound mind. We're not given a mind of fear, but we're given a sound mind. And there are preachers out there that are just screaming and raging at people about how sinful they are and how evil they are and how there's only one hope, and that's if you do what I say. And they totally ignore it. The Creator said, "I gave you a sound mind." Well, is this teaching we're hearing in churchianity really about those scriptures? How much of them really are about those scriptures? How much of them are about false teachers controlling men and women for their own benefit? The key is, who does the benefit go to, whether you're in front of a false teacher or a true teacher? If it's a true teacher, the benefit's going to you. If it's a false teacher, benefit's going to them. And the benefit is connecting you to your highest source. And layer by layer, level by level, they talk about here a little, there a little, is opening up that understanding. So that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to support.
That made me also think, it's like file folders. We talk about one thing and then the file folder pops up.
Exactly.
But it made me think, the other day for the first time when Aria was here, and actually Ryan was still here too, and they were eating breakfast. And I don't remember what it was she did. And she goes, "Oh, bad Aria." And Ryan says, "You're not bad." But that means she's heard it from somewhere, or either heard the, bad dog or whatever. But it was kind of brought up sadness for me.
I hear you. Well, and
and we do have.
Go ahead, sweetie.
I was just going to say we do have a hand up now.
Great. So, but before we go to the hand, let's just breathe a little bit, and support the processing of that sadness or perhaps the fear of loss for Aria, and open the space within ourselves, because of course she's in our genes. And so that's probably exactly one of the next things that needs to process, to let loose of that, to open the space for her to go to the next level. She's the next generation. And if we're not trapped, you and I mean personally, in the old generation, then we can bring her into a truly new generation rather than just replicate the old one, which is what people who are living in carbon-based memory are doing, just replicating the old dynamics. So
Right.
I join you in breathing through that one and letting loose of it, and really truly seeing her as who she is, and knowing how to get to her the message of her goodness and her wellness and her wholeness and her amazing genius and sweet presence.
Yeah, you notice I've been kind of going through that. You're beautiful, you're awesome, you're wonderful.
Yep. And sweetie, so are you.
Yep.
Smoke and mirrors, girl. Smoke and mirrors. All right, well, let's talk to our caller.
All right, I believe it's
and
Susan.
We'll breathe on that after the show.
Yeah. You're on the air, Susan.
Hi. Boy,
hey, young lady, welcome.
Thanks. You're touching on a really important subject with little Aria. When we had our daughter and son, we just cherished them and played with them and loved them, and a lot of good physical contact, lots of kisses and hugs, and we really thought we were protecting them, not knowing anything about the work or even the Course in Miracles at that time. But this morning I went up to get my son's dog, which I do every day, and walk the dog. His wife is in the kitchen, and I say, how was Jonathan's trip? He went away for 2 days. She said it was good, but it was hard. He had his mental junk going on. I said, where is he now? And she said, he's in bed. And I said, I wonder if he'd like to go for a walk. She said, I'll go up and check, because he's been feeling just awful. She goes in there. She finds him trying to sleep, just, trying to get away from his thoughts. And she says, get up and go for a walk. And he says, no, I'm paralyzed. She says, get out of bed. So he came down, and he did look, his face was just filled with pain. We went for a walk. He told me about a dream he had, which I can't remember the details, but it was like his life, it is an allegory of his life. And what came out of all that was simply that when he went to first grade, he was found to be unable to read. Well, none of the kids can read, or very few at first grade. So he called us up in a panic because we were away, and he said, Mom, I can't read. And I said, you're not supposed to. You're in school to learn how to read. You can relax. He said, but some of the kids know how to read, and I don't know how to. Well, anyway, panic. But that's when it started. He felt inadequate.
Yeah.
Turns out he's an ambidextrous boy with dyslexia. And in his elementary school, they had a program, I've told you about this, talented and gifted. He didn't get into the talented and gifted, but all of his friends were in talented and gifted. So toward the end of the day, they'd call the talented kids and the gifted kids, and they'd go on a special thing. The dumb kids, as he took it, because he was not stupid, the dumb kids were left behind. He would come home and he'd say, why is it that I'm the leader of my group? I plan all the events. We do street hockey. We climb trees. We go to the park. I'm the organizer. But when I'm in school, I'm the stupid one. Why is that?
That's the empowered brain.
Yeah, but it's all of his difficulties now. The reason he is afraid to choose the life he really wants is that he is busy proving that he can earn a lot of money and be very smart and be a great doctor and do all these things, which he can because he's very bright. But he thinks he's only faking it. He's been faking it all this time. And
you
it
know what
seems
a really
so global. What?
Yeah, it is global. It is global. A really a conversation that might open a new level of internal empowerment for him is to, if you've had this conversation with him and he's got that insight, is to talk about how, son, you went into a teaching disabled system and they turned around and made you the learning disabled one.
Oh, that's nicely put.
And or you turned it around and made yourself the learning disabled one. Notice, as you said, you're the bright kid who was able to organize everything, and it was the same in school, but because the challenges were different and they didn't know how to deal with your level of intelligence, they wrote over you. And that might be the start of him being able to open and forgive that reality that he holds about himself that just, makes no sense in the context of who he is. But in the context of the self that he's built, it's perfectly sensible.
Mm. We must have walked for 2 miles or something. We kept approaching his house, and he'd say, "Oh, I need to go around the block again." So we kept going and going and going. And he was just talking. He was just talking about all this. And my feeling of overwhelm, I was doing little worksheets in my head saying, breathe, be calm. This is a good thing. Don't panic, because it seemed overwhelming to me, the amount of having been spiritually crushed as a child, and we didn't go to bat for him. He used to come home and complain, and I'd just say, you're smart. We know you're smart. But he was sent to remedial reading, and he was always called out over the PA system. Jonathan Bingham, come on to the reading room now with Mrs. So-and-so. And it was all of it just pounding it into him that he was less than.
Yep. So that's a teaching disabled, defective system that gave him messages that aren't true, and he needs to be forgiving those messages. And, that's what the worksheet does. It's about removing that content. Literally, really removing the emotional energy. That's where the breath comes in. And I think it's awesome because walking, you got to breathe, and having you there holding the space, active love, whatever. I mean, just let that fountain bubble. I mean, that fountain might bubble for the next 5 years, Orb. It might bubble for the next 5 years for him to clear out all of those energetic patterns. And the fact that he was able to be with you and do that is awesome.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. I just thought, how do we go from here? But
hold love,
he wrote
conscious,
to me later,
active and present, and creates a safe space for everything to come up and be looked at and processed through. And remember our definition of processing: the ability to keep love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up. You don't have to do anything about it. Just be the space.
Oh, good to be reminded. Good to be reminded.
Breathe.
Well,
he
wrote later and said that walk helped so much that I was able to do some of the paperwork at the hospital that I know I need to do to have my leave of absence. And I've been telling him, call it a sabbatical. Teachers get a sabbatical every 7 years. You've been 20 years without much of a break, except here and there when you hit a wall. This is a sabbatical year. You don't have to explain. You just say you were really tired and need a sabbatical year. You're taking it. So anyway,
And you might even add to the sabbatical idea, this is your self-healing year. This is where everything comes to the surface that you get to process through and come out a whole new creation, a whole restructured man.
Yeah. His temptation is to go right back to work as soon as he feels rested enough to go back in. And I say, you've come up to this wall so many times. It's time to go through the wall.
Right.
Instead of just bouncing back into that system again. And, there's a lot of pressure on him, internal and external, to go back to work. But, oh, man. Michael,
it sounds like your walks creates a whole new process for him to do it through. If he's not going to sit down and do worksheets, then You know, and one of the questions to ask often, you know, different points as they come up. Well, what's the goal? What do you suppose is the goal there that you've got all that frustration about? And just the invitation. Well, you know, you might want to cancel that goal. You know, who knows what's going to bubble up? But you know, it's that's the process.
Oh,
so that's awesome that you've got his ear. That's fabulous.
I feel as if you and Tim Hayes have been walking me through this period of time.
We're just doing our job.
It's a great thing to do.
There's a song I've come across recently. It's called "Walking on the Moon," and as you say that, the lyric, the melody line of it's really cute. It's just this little female voice that says, "Walking on the moon." So here you are, walking on the moon with your son, bringing healing. It's perfect. I'll send you a link to the song.
Good. I wanted to say to Jeannie that Irish prayer, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine bright or warm upon your face. It's a beautiful one. And there was a little boy, age 6, when I was working in the public schools millions of years ago, a little Irish boy who was freak accident killed. He poked his head out into the street at the wrong moment, and a truck went by, and the rearview mirror knocked his head right off.
Oh my goodness. Phew.
I know, and the mother was standing right there holding books in one arm and a hand on another kid. And so this was just such a thing. But anyway, that prayer, I found that prayer and set it to music, and it's nice. I'm going to send it to you.
Oh, please do. I love that.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, it's a nice song. So, and my Psalm 130 with the revised, that you may be feared, revised to that you may be revered, because it sounded just sort of like it is. I'll send you that one too.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Well, thanks for the input. Oh my gosh, that was so helpful. You really should have a little note at the base of my score now saying, text revised by Aramaic scholar Dr. Michael Ryce. Yeah. So, thanks, guys. Well,
hey, absolutely delighted. You know, we're doing what we're here to do, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that.
Well, I feel as if you've set my marching orders for the day. I really know how to put one foot in front of the other for the next increment, whatever it is. So, thanks.
Sweet.
All right.
So I'm going to just play in the background for a moment before we finish this show. This little tune that you might hear as you're walking with your son. Take me a second to get it set up here. So we see you walking on the moon with Jonathan. It's a cute tune. I'll send you a link to it. Are you still with us?
Oh, I muted her because we're down to 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. Everybody, have the best year yet of your eternal life. Awesome gift to give the world. Blessings. Bye-bye.